Hello, I'm TerryDavidMulligan, and this is the Mulligan Stew podcast for August the 28th. I don't think we've done a podcast like this before. It's just the way the week worked out. I had intended to talk to and then play some music by Suzie Ungerleider, who for 9 albums, was worked under the stage name, the performer name, the artist name of Suzanna. She will explain why her 10th album is called My Name is Suzie Ungerleider. She finally went back to being who she was. And it changed everything. You can hear it in the music. You can hear it in her vocals. 10 albums into a career, she's found her voice. And she will close the show today. Opening for her, Russell Broom, Colin Linden, and Barney Bentall. I was talking to each of them about the Last Waltz shows that are taking place in Calgary and Edmonton. September 2nd and 3rd at the Southern Alberta Jubilee Auditorium, and September the 9th and 10th at the Northern Alberta Jubilee Auditorium. And I was getting a hold of those guys, Russell, Colin, and Barney, to talk about those dates when we woke up to the morning that Charlie Watts had passed away, the great drummer, the legendary drummer of the Rolling Stones, the heart and soul of that band. I don't care what you think of Mick or Keith. He was the guy. And so we had that to talk about. Then we had the Last Waltz to talk about. So 3 conversations in a row. Actually 4. Suzie Ungerleider, Russell Broom, who was the band leader and the onstage producer for The Last Waltz, Remembering The Last Waltz. Colin Linden, who has played with Bob Dylan and the band. And Barney Bentall, who went to see the Last Waltz documentary 6 times in a row for 6 nights. That's how much he loved it. Enjoy these conversations. Thank you. I have Russell Broom on the line. The morning that we're talking, it's Tuesday. I think it's the 23rd. We have lost Charlie Watts.
Yes.
Charlie Watts. I have said on the show on a number of occasions, every time I played a Stones track, please somebody, please anybody, take care of Charlie Watts, please. Because without Charlie Watts, you know, that band will simply just pack it in. And it's hard to see because he wasn't flashy like Keith Moon. He wasn't loud and all over and driving the band like a Bonham from Led Zeppelin. But he was the guy. Did you hear that with your ears as well?
You know, I think what's great about that era of music is that they were bands in the truest sense, meaning that each person and their unique character and whatever their musical background was and how they contributed to it made the sound completely unique. And I think we're in a day and age where we don't see that as often. But absolutely, like, he was the pulse of the band, and how he rhythmically worked with Keith Richards, who was much more of a rhythmic guitar player than people give him credit for. I think gave that band sort of this, I equate drummers to how people walk, and they had a certain swagger and a certain strut to how they played that whenever, you know, Steve Jordan is an incredible drummer, and, you know, all the stuff with Keith Richards is, you know, is incredible, but nothing quite had that sort of stately swagger that Charlie Watts brought to that group. And it's a culmination of parts, you know, and Keith Moon was the same, John Bonham was the same, and those bands were different after that, you know, after those people passed away. But, yeah, it's a thing, you know, like being in a band is a lot different than having a couple people that write and play instruments and then everything else being fairly interchangeable.
And when Charlie got away from the Stones, he played jazz. He had a big band. It was fantastic. Yeah. He knew how to swing, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Charlie Watts, my goodness. Russell Broom on the line. By the way, before I get to the actual reason why I'm calling, I want to congratulate you for spending time and energy and heart and soul and spittle with Art Bergman and late-stage Empire dementia. I've seen Bergman up close. I've been around him a lot, and it takes a soul to go into that room with him, because those are his songs, and work with him and make him a better musician and singer and songwriter. Well done.
Thank you. I was thrilled just to have the opportunity to be in a room with him and knowing his history. And I think the first time I met him was back in like 1992 or 93 when I was touring with a band called Jerry and the Sons of Rhythm Orchestra.
Yeah.
And we had a couple shows in Vancouver, and Art and his crew were kind of around at that time. And I was always a fan, from the stuff in the 80s that he put out on Duke Street, and even earlier than that, like the K-Tels and the Poison stuff and the Young Canadians. So yeah, to work with him was an incredible opportunity, and the only way I think we could facilitate it was we both had some pretty good boundaries about how often we would work together, and it was a couple days a week, and that way we didn't grow tired of each other, and we always came in with a fresh perspective on how to make the music better, and everything else was just superfluous. But he's an incredible musician, incredible ears, incredible lyricist, and working with him definitely has been one of the highlights of my career, and I was fortunate to have the opportunity.
You know what I love about your resume? You go from Art Bergman to Jan Arden. I mean, that's...
Sometimes in the same day during the pandemic.
My gosh.
I was working on records with both of them. So, yeah.
Oh, so, and season 3 is coming out, and there's a new Jan Arden album soon, like this year maybe?
I think it comes out in January, but
Okay.
Jan and I are going to Vancouver in September to mix it with Bob Rock, which is going to be a huge honor and a really great experience to see these songs come to life with some fresh ears on them.
I want to get to why I'm calling
Sure.
The Last Waltz.
Yep.
You're going to recreate the 45th anniversary of The Last Waltz in San Francisco. You've already done this once with Corb and Amy and Matt and Barney and Dust and Tom Cochran and Colin James and the Hammers. Are these the same songs redone with different voices and people, or have you chosen different songs?
Well, there's a few songs that we feel we couldn't leave out. And then what we did on the last show, which is sort of a template for this one, is that we assign verses to the headliners, and we have everyone up on stage at the same time, kind of celebrating some of the more well-known band songs. And then part of it is we let each artist choose one of their favorites. And then also we want them to do an original song, because one thing about the Last Waltz, my takeaway from it was that it was not only a huge celebration of the band as writers and as people that put out records under the moniker of the band. It was also a great opportunity to see how great of a band they were backing up other artists. So when they played with Clapton and Van Morrison and Dylan, you got to see them not only as a bunch of front people, you got to see how great they were and how cohesive of a unit they were. So we're trying to celebrate all aspects of that. And, we're not trying to do a sound alike. We're not trying to do anything that is sort of a parrot version of the band. We're taking the energy and the intent of what we got from that show and trying to just put some new artists at the forefront of it and just celebrate the music in the way that the film and the record spoke to us and how it made us feel, as far as a celebration of that band, a celebration of their legacy, and just a celebration of their uniqueness and what character they brought. And hopefully we have a great group of musicians that can give their own character to it, and we can take the spirit of that concert and make it into something that is poignant with the list of headliners that we have, like Jimmy Rankin and the Bentalls, Michael Bernard Fitzgerald, and the one and only Colin Linden. So it's going to be a pretty cool night.
I'm going to go talk to Barney and Colin. And Colin, of course, was with the band and knew the guys.
Right.
Has played with Dylan, which helps. And has his own history. And Barney's been doing this for quite a while in terms of recreating albums that we all grew up with. Can you give me the dates again, just for the audience?
Yeah, you bet. It's September 2nd and 3rd in Calgary at the Jubilee Auditorium, and then it's the 9th and 10th in Edmonton at the Northern Alberta Jubilee Auditorium. 4
nights. My goodness.
Yeah.
It's going to be, and at the end, the encore. Doesn't it have to be? What's the encore? Released?
Well, I can't tell you that. How did you know?
It's got to be released.
Well, it's one of them. We got a couple iconic songs for the encore.
Okay.
And the last time we did "I Shall Be Released," what was really cool is Corb Lund sang it in a falsetto like Rick Anko, and it was like he surprised everybody in the room, even us on stage, because we didn't realize he was going to do it till he pulled it out at the show. But yeah, so that's one of them for sure.
Have yourself a great 4 nights.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm a big fan, and I appreciate all of the support you've given the music industry in Canada over the years. So
thank you, man.
Thanks for all you do, man.
Say hello to Jan and Art on the same day. Thank you.
I absolutely will. Take care and stay safe.
Well, this is fun. Russell Broom leading the band and producing the on-stage music for The Last Waltz in Calgary and Edmonton, and talking about the loss of Charlie Watts. Now, the same day that I was doing the interview with Russell, I was also talking to Colin Linden and Barney Bentall about their engagement with The Last Waltz and the tunes that how they were feeling about the film and the concert and honoring the band. But at the same time, as you well know, we lost Charlie Watts on the same day. So we start with those comments and then lead into the Last Waltz. Conversations with Colin Linden, who has played with the band, and Bob Dylan, and many others, and his own career, and Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, and Barney Bentall, who continues to lead the Robin Hood of the music business. So, comments from Colin Linden, Barney Bentall. In the makeup of things, Colin, as you know, it's always the lead vocalist, the lead guitarist, it's the soloists, it's the guys walking one side of the stage to the other, the follow spot and everything. But you know that Charlie Watts was the glue that pulled that band together.
He was the glue that pulled rock and roll together, you know. I think that he really, you know, I don't say that you know, lightly or facetiously. If you think of what makes the distance between 2 points feel great, you know, what makes the distance between boom, boom, feel right. He delivered that. He showed us that.
Give me a track, for example, that shows Charlie Watts as what you were describing.
For me, my favorite Stones song is one that's fairly atypical for Charlie, but for me is absolutely what Playing for a Song is about. And it's my favorite Rolling Stones track. And even though I love Keith Richards with all my heart, it's a track he doesn't play on. And that is Moonlight Mile.
Okay.
To me, it's such a beautiful, beautiful piece of music. Absolutely tremendous drumming and drum sounds and drum approach. And then, of course, Tumbling Dice.
Well, you just took the words right out of my mouth. My tune is Tumbling Dice. That's my tune.
Everything about that song is absolutely perfect. It's just one of the greatest records ever.
It's like somebody in the room said, shut up and play. Let's just shut up and play. It's so good, Tumbling Dice. And live, it's even better. Not many tunes get better live, you know, but that one does.
I never saw them play.
No.
I never saw them play. And I sort of had a chance to on the last tour in Nashville. And just for some stupid reasons, I didn't pursue it, even though I had a chance to go with a guy who was a friend of Keith's, who's a guitar dealer. It just felt like it was sort of not the right thing to do, and I didn't do it, and it bugged me, and I thought to myself, okay, I really want to, next time I got to see them. So they were playing here May 18th, 2020, and I know Daryl Jones a little bit, so I texted Daryl, and I said, hey, it would be wonderful to see you when you come to Nashville if you have any time. And he texted me back immediately and said, yeah, we're going to be in town 2 or 3 days before the show. Let's get together, come and hang. And of course it got canceled because of COVID. And then I was really looking forward to going to see them again when they come here in October, assuming that continues on. And of course I realized the date I'll actually be in British Columbia. Which is a wonderful place to be.
Of course. I think the only way that they'll do this tour is in tribute to Charlie. That's about the only way I can see them doing it. Otherwise, they just, their heart's not in it. You can't celebrate the Stones without Charlie.
Yeah, well, I knew that Steve Jordan was going to do the tour because of Charlie's illness.
Sure.
So I knew that he wouldn't be doing the tour, but it changes everything. I mean, the idea of Steve Jordan, you know, doing you know, a dozen shows, and then, you know, Charlie coming back next year when he's feeling better. I mean, that was kind of sure. It's great to have Steve Jordan there, and it'll be wonderful. And
okay,
my heart's sad.
Charlie Watts.
I have been around, you know, some of the other greatest drummers. Of course, I played quite a lot with Levon Helm, who was pretty sensational drummer himself.
Amazing.
And Jim Keltner and a bunch of others who are real greats. But those particular greats, I was never around at all.
Now, it leads, your mention of Levon, it leads to the reason why I was calling originally this morning.
Right.
Was
I can just forget that happened.
The Last Waltz. You're going to do The Last Waltz, you and an all-star gang with Russell Broom in Calgary and in Edmonton. And having, I think you're the only person on the stage who's actually played with the band in some capacity. Am I right?
Yeah, I think that's right. Although actually, Gary Craig, who is going to be, Gary, we've had dinner together with Gary, who plays drums with me for the last 38 years. Gary sat in with the band and certainly played with Levon on a number of occasions, and played with Rick and Garth and all those guys. So Gary has a little of that. He didn't play with them as much as I did, and didn't, hang with Levon that much. But Levon was really extremely complimentary about Gary's playing too.
What interests you in recreating The Last Waltz, a concert that I had the pleasure of attending, and I can replay it in my head anytime I want. So
wow.
I understand why I would, but how about you going back and recreating, or at least paying honor to and tribute to 45 years of Last Waltz?
Well, I think really what it is the band was about so much more than that show. It was about the spirit that brought all those people together, the love of music and the love of each other, and just that the free spirit of playing music that had joy and fire in it, and that was a product of what had come before, but was not chained to what had come before. And that's the timeless nature of the band's music. And I think that's what made them so attractive to all of the other artists who, all of the guests who joined the show. They were, I think, extremely attracted to the band's spirit. And to me, it's less about recreating The Last Waltz as much as it is paying living tribute to that spirit.
What tunes are you going to do? Do you know?
I'm going to do. I think I'm allowed to say, right? I'm going to do "It Makes No Difference" and "Remedy."
I love that. I love the lyric and the lilt of "Makes No Difference."
It's just one of my very favorite songs, and I loved Rick Danko so much. He was very, very dear to me, and I sang that song with Rick so many times, and I just feel like when I sing it, I feel Rick's spirit with me, and it's a really great feeling. And I don't know if they mentioned to you or not, but when they asked me to do it, I told them that I would love to do it, but I would be infinitely more interested in doing it if I could also be in the band as well as being a guest. So they said that they would do it, and I said I would do it on that condition, because to me, I just don't want to be playing two songs and bits and pieces of three or four others. I like playing, and I've been missing playing live.
Colin Linden, two things. You have an album coming out.
I do.
What's it called?
It's called Blow, and it's coming out September 17th.
And well, double back and we'll talk about it. But what makes it stand out? What makes it unique?
Well, it's the first time I've actually ever made an electric blues album. So it's quite different than any record I've ever made.
Now, the other thing is Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, and
yes,
and a young man named Tom Wilson who says in an interview we did a couple of weeks ago, he's starting to write different songs now. He says I'm maybe a different guy now after all of this lockdown. I didn't pursue that, but I kind of wonder if there's still a Blackie and still a Blackie music and a Blackie tour.
Well, we people will know more about the tour or the shows. We're going to do Massey Hall on, I believe it's March the 2nd, and we're going to do the National Arts Center on March the 5th, and sometime in about a month from now, people are going to hear a little bit more about Blackie, and time will tell what all happens, but it feels very vital, and feels, one thing I can tell you about Tom is that he really is, I've known him for 45 years now, and he is on fire like I've never seen him before with his creativity, and we've been doing a ton of collaborating together. So time will tell where it all goes.
Oh my gosh, what a time this is, Colin! What a time this is.
It's an emotional time, right?
It's unbelievable. It was a wonderful time, and it buoyed my spirits because we're surrounded with some dark news these days, and it's good to talk to you. And actually,
so great to talk to you,
just
DDM.
Just stay in touch,
Yeah.
But I will be with you in spirit, and I will follow these dates, these 4 dates, 2 in Calgary, 2 in Edmonton, and I wish you nothing but the best on that stage.
Thanks so much, Terry. I can't wait to see you.
He's played with the band. He's played with Dylan. He's played with Blackie and the Rodeo Kings. He's his own guy, his own solo career. Colin Linden on the Mulligan Stew Podcast. We welcome to the Mulligan Stew Podcast a good friend, Barney Bentall. We lost this very morning that you and I are talking. We lost Charlie Watts. And I have said this on the air for a number of years. He is the Stones for me. Mick and Keith and all the rest of those guys do what they do. Charlie Watts is the core of that band. Did you pick up on Charlie along the way?
Well, he had this gentleness about him that I always absolutely loved. And this is such a funny little thing to focus on because I've been thinking a lot about it. I'm riding up into the hills with my mountain bike after we talk, and I'm gonna play, some of my favorite Rolling Stones songs as I'm doing that. It's be my little ride for Charlie. But one thing I always loved about him, he had this way of drumming where he wouldn't play the hi-hat when the snare got hit. So it's an interesting thing. Like, and I love tinkering with drumming, and I kind of play that way too because of that. Keith would kind of push the timing, and he would hold it back. It was like a great, chuck wagon team or something. I didn't expect him. I didn't expect him to go. I mean, when these things happen, it's sobering for sure. I knew John. We all knew John Prine was really sick with COVID, and that was just such a heartache, that one. But and I knew that Charlie had gone in for some procedure, but it seemed like it was whatever publicity they sent out. It seemed like everything was going to be fine, and he'd be back doing what he was doing. But sometimes the heart or whatever it is, just the body, our temporal shell that we inhabit, decides to call it a day.
Is there a favorite Charlie Watts moment on drums in one of the tunes? Anything jump out at you?
I always loved Monkey Man and the way it all comes in and falls in together. I don't know. There's just so many. It's what I see is I just see his face, and it's beautifully kind of elegant. Just his hair and his whole demeanor was just gentle and elegant, and a really good counterpoint to the rest of them.
The rest of the guys, and he always seemed to be laughing at the guys when the guys. I know. When the guys were doing the thing out front, he always had that laugh on his face. Wow.
Okay.
Now, Barn, the reason why I'm calling you, of course, is because The Last Waltz is going to be up and running in Calgary and Edmonton, too, at the Jubes. And you've signed on. Now, you've done this before. Remember you were doing that whole series of, remember, you and Steve Dawson on Main Street, I think it was, and you were doing a whole albums front to back. So you like this. You like the format. You like the gathering together of voices and not paying tribute to, and in your own way, reimagining songs. What's your connection to The Last Waltz? Is it through the music on the album, or is it from the documentary?
Well, I'm just so stoked that you were actually there. I think that's just about the coolest thing going. If I could have transported my young self there, that would have been that would have been a time travel thing worth doing. But what happened, I was growing up in Calgary, and I guess I would have been in, like, I don't know, maybe 15 or 16, I'm not sure. But when it came out, myself and my friend Gary Fraser, who I wrote a lot of, he's a lawyer now, but we wrote a lot of Something to Live For, Come Back to Me, all those songs together. And Gary and I, we were building barbed wire fences outside of Calgary, but we went 6 nights in a row to see that movie. And it was, that's how much I loved it and kind of how influential it was. And then, of course, got the record and pretty much wore that out. But, and when just a couple of weeks ago, I watched the movie again because, in anticipation of doing this. And it's just so, I don't know, they really, you realize in hindsight how influential they were in terms of style and music, and how admired they were. These musicians that are really at the top of the game are they're not exactly fawning over them, but they're just going, there was something so timeless, so unique, and I like to think Canadian about them, for the most part, except for Levon, but just created this magic, and people it's not like they weren't setting out to be pretentious or change the world. They just played great music, and it was so unique. I don't know. I get tongue tied when I talk about it. It's still, to this day, I watch it and listen to it, and it absolutely blows me away. Funny things you think of, like watching Rick Danko play bass.
Yeah.
I can normally tell what people are doing, but there's something so unique about it. Both he and whatever Garth Hudson is doing, like science experiments, he's conducting at the back there. But Rick, the way he plays bass is just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
It just, his hands moving. It's like this Gumby just moving around, but you can't even kind of get a real grasp on what his hands are doing. And I love that. I love when there's mystery to it all.
I meant to ask you, Barney, what song you've chosen to sing from, because, there's Cripple Creek and Forever Young and Wait and Caravan and Dixie Down and I Shall Be Released. And you have chosen...
I've chosen Out of the Blue. Because we did this before. We did it with Corb and Amy Hellman and a few others, and Matt Anderson. It was super fun. And so when I went to do it this time, I thought I just try and go instinctually on, what I think it would be fun to do. And I thought, whoa, Out of the Blue, that would be, it's not a feature in the film. But it's such a beautiful kind of heart-aching song. And so I thought, I'll do that. And it was great because the whole crew went, oh, excellent choice. Because I don't think anybody, thought anybody would sing that one. So we'll see. And then we're going to do a bunch together, where we're each taking verses. I think they've laid it out really well. It's kind of cool that, each of us will do one of our songs that we're known for in the mix there, and then do one song together. And then Dustin and I are going to sing on It Makes No Difference with Colin Linden.
Nice.
I said to Colin, I said, you got to let us sing Bee Gees on that, because Dustin and I have sung that song a fair bit. And then also, I think Dustin is doing King Harvest to Surely Come, and I'll sing along on If He'll Have Me. I'll sing on that with him.
Yes, the moment of truth, Father, Son. Thursday, September 2 and Friday, September 3 at the Southern Alberta Jubilee Auditorium. And then Thursday, September 9 and Friday, September 10 in the Northern Alberta Jubilee Auditorium. 4 nights of The Last Waltz with an all-star cast. And we've had a chance to talk to 3 of them. Colin Linden, Russell Broom, and Barney Bentall. Thank you, Barn. Take care of yourself.
Thanks as always, Terry.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, take care of yourself, and it puts a smile on my face when I think of you being there.
And that moment when Neil walked out to do Helpless and sang a song about Canada with 4 other Canadian guys in the band and Joni Mitchell doing background vocals behind the curtain, that moment to me was everything, absolutely everything.
Yeah. Proud moment of some of the treasures that Canada has given to the world.
Go ride a horse for me, will you?
I will.
Listen, when you get out there in that moment, say hello to Charlie for me.
I will. Thanks, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. We know her as Suzanna, and still we always will. I mean, in one way or another, you're tagged with it through 9 albums in a lifetime. Suzie Ungerleider is on the phone here with me. The decision to leave Susanna behind was based on, well, the album title, My Name is Suzie Ungerleider. But secondly, there are historical references to Susanna back to minstrel days. Did that have a play in it?
Yeah, definitely. It was. I started to feel disconnected from that persona and the imagery that the song conjured. Even though I was really, when I first started, it felt like a very apt kind of moniker or costume, or the images that it would conjure up felt really, of old Americana, felt very true to what the music I was trying to make. But when I started to look into the lyrics, the original lyrics of the song have, extremely racist language and imagery. And when Black Lives Matter started to, of course, Black Lives Matter has been, speaking out for, feels like decades now. But last summer when George Floyd was killed, and people really, it felt like a mass movement, and that everybody started to wake up, more in the white community. And someone brought it to my attention. Well, what about this? What about the song lyrics? Even though I know that a lot of people don't know about them because the lyrics were changed about 100 years ago to make it less racist. And it really felt like, yes, okay, this really seals the deal. I don't want to be someone who ignores this content, even if it's sort of hidden or even maybe because it's hidden, maybe it's something that, only particular people know about, and it might, it really has strongly affected Black lives, this kind of images and belief system. So it felt like I really wanted to move away from that, and also it helped me get a chance to just be me instead of wearing a kind of persona.
How did that feel?
It felt really scary at first. I felt very much like a little snail without my shell. But I knew it was the right thing, and I felt really excited about it at the same time. I mean, it's sort of like taking a leap where, for other people, it might not make much of a difference. But for me, psychologically, it felt like a freedom but also a vulnerability. So now it feels a little more normal, but I remember that first week after announcing that I was going to do it, I just felt so strange. I was like, what's happening? I don't know. And my name is so strange. My long, crazy name that people don't know how to pronounce, So that was an interesting thing to think back on what my name meant to me, how growing up with a long and complicated name has been an experience. It's kind of formed my outlook in some ways. And I think it's going to continue it makes me feel more able to just express what I need to express artistically.
Here's the track I wanted to ask you about. I want to get to this because it's important. North Star Sneakers. It's about the role of a woman who becomes a mother, who she was, her talents, her character, her voice, her dreams all get pushed aside, and the role of mother takes over, not so much by her, but by everybody around her. It is a reduced role of mother as opposed to someone who had incredible talent and could have been somebody, and still could be. It's a very recognizable human trait. Tell me about this song, will you?
Yeah, I think you describe it really well. I mean, I feel like being a mother is actually an incredible thing to be. It's probably the most important job, of course, but that society, blames mothers, reduces women to this role of caregiver. When I was growing up, a lot of my friends, they all had single mothers. They were the most incredible women. They were getting divorced at a time when that was super taboo, and they had lived these wild lives. And I guess it was me thinking about who they were, knowing now me being a mother, feeling like sometimes I'm just seen as a mom. They don't see your humanity or your whole story. And so I was just thinking about all the incredible moms I knew, moms of my friends, my own mother, and how their stories sometimes get forgotten or they're not seen. So I wanted to capture that in a song that people have these incredible stories, women have incredible stories, and they do things, but then suddenly they're just in an apron and nursing a baby, and suddenly that's all they are. Even though that is an incredible thing to be, it doesn't tell the whole story. So that's what I wanted to capture in that song.
Your jeans were as straight and tight as the stripes on your North Star sneakers, strutting the hall, tasting the stale smoke on your tongue. You were walking the line between the losers and the winners. In the back of your mind, you know the losers are much more fun. And you were the first to kiss the boys behind the bleachers, then ace the test to take the top grade in your class. Behind their backs you'd give the finger to your teachers. Give us a wink, then take a drink from an empty flask. But when you were young, was this what you wanted? To live in a house with 2 kids and a yard? Well now, baby, here you are. And all the bells that ring in the back of your mind, all those voices singing cruel little nursery rhymes, just forget and you'll be fine. After the prom, you rode the coast on your motorcycle, barely stopping for a chat with a customs man. You never mentioned all the hash sewn inside your collar, always made it a point to never answer what you want asked. When you were young, was this what you wanted? To live in a house with 2 kids and a yard. When you were young, was this what you wanted? To live in a house with 2 kids and a yard. Well now, baby, here you are.
Well, you're going to like what you hear in reaction to this album. It's really good.
Thank you so much, Terry.
I'm so pleased.
That means a lot.
All right. Thank you for doing this, and have yourself a great 2021. And whatever happens next year, you have the music to carry you through the year. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
You're welcome.
Much love to you.
Welcome. Love you. Welcome back to the coast. My thanks to Suzie Ungerleider and Russell Broom and Colin Linden and Barney Bentall so much for sharing the stage with each other and making this one of the most memorable podcasts that we've done. Whew. Next week? Who's next week? Oh, you know what? I think next week is Ed Robertson from the Bare Naked Ladies. I believe it is. I think if we can make it all work out, I think it's Ed Robertson, Bare Naked Ladies. You can subscribe to the Mulligan Stew podcast on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts. Please and thank you. Take care.